The following presentation was recorded live in Los Angeles, California for the 24th Annual Convention of the International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape 18, Voice 3, Critique Session.
We're here for a voice critique session, and so therefore those of you who had been selected and are here and have a record, well, I can do that. If, however, some of the people whose names I read didn't answer, there's no reason why somebody else sitting out here that would like to have an opportunity for some voice critique can't just jump in and do it. But in order to do it, you got to have a record to play. Since we're dealing with singing calls primarily, I'm not smart enough to do patter calls, but if we're dealing with singing calls and I'm going to be working with your singing voice, it isn't necessary for you to sing the whole record. The dance goes on too long, you know, and much of it has to do with your choreography. So if you can take it through one complete set or a complete verse, something like that, so I can hear all of what is on your mind, what's in your voice, then I can draw some conclusions. And I'd kind of like to have those whose names have been called or who want to be critiqued come up one right after another to sing so that I can sort of tie things together. Yes, ma'am. And those of you that want to do it, get a record, and we'll just run at it. Say again? I'm sorry? Well, no, I want to have you sing. So if you can borrow off of somebody or beat somebody up in the halls and steal the record or something like that, then we can go for it. Now, let me go back over through the names again one more time, just see if anybody showed up. Ken Jordan? Did Ken ever show up? Okay, so Ken's out. Ann Ubelacher? She went to get her record. All right, she's in. That's right. And did ever John Hallman show up? No. Okay. Excuse me. Boy, I don't know. Something hit me last night about dinner time. It wasn't that. And John's here. And Murray Few. Murray ever show up? Okay, Murray's out. And then I got a couple of alternates. They are Stephen. Yeah, you're here and you've got a record. Okay, you're on. And did Glenn Walden ever show up? Anybody named Glenn Walden? All right, so what that means is that there's room for an additional, probably 3 or 4 folks to take advantage of that opportunity. So, why don't we start off with John? Sure, go ahead and borrow. And then we'll go with Stephen, and then hopefully by that time Ann will be back, and then we'll see where we go from there. How's that sound? Well, I'll just sit down here in the audience and take some notes.
You know, it'd be good if they went through the opener and the first figure because they're...
Hold on, that's supposed to be on tape.
My suggestion is that you do the opener and the first figure because the music is different in those two portions.
Does that sound good to everybody? If you've got a song that has something unique to it, you know, a middle bridge or something like that, and that's where you're needing help, then that's where I'd like to be of help. But otherwise, let's just follow this suggestion. Okay, let's go.
Well, to get to the middle break, we got to go a long way.
Yeah. But if there's something that is important to come out of that, it'd be worth the time. But if not, if it just goes through a repetitive pattern again, then that's great. And then we can just go up to the point where it starts to repeat itself. Does that sound okay?
Well, on this record that I'm going to use, the middle break is
use your microphone.
Different. Don't know how to use this thing. The middle break on this one, Arden, is different from the rest of it.
Well, let's take the time to do it. Because actually what we're trying to do is to address needs. Now, in John's case, he didn't have any needs. It's a good way to start. Yeah. So go for it.
You know how difficult it is for me to sing early in the morning? Because I normally don't get up until the crack of noon.
Yeah, that's right.
Pardon me? May I check the volume of the music first?
Sure.
I think it's all the way down. Does that sound okay? Doug's that okay? Does the volume sound okay? This record that I'm going to do, my son and I recorded this together. Vernon on the Global label. Gotta get it plugged. Circle that. Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right. Walk out around the corner, lady, seesaw your own. Left Valley Mountain Promenade. All I ask you is let me be there. Headlights turn through the night, start and then you promenade halfway around. Down the middle flutter wheel, sweep 1/4 more and now pass through, then around I lift through. Veer left and now couple circulate, chain down the line, then promenade. Whenever you call, you know I'll be there. Headlights turn through the night, start and then you promenade halfway around. Down the middle flutter wheel, sweep 1/4 more and now pass through, then around I lift through. Veer left and now couple circulate, chain down the line, then promenade. Whenever you call, you know I'll be there. Side space, Grand Square. Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right. Circle left tonight. Oh, let me take you through that wonderland that only two can share. All I ask you is let me be there.
Okay, so, Stephen, you want to go up next? He says yes. Can't hardly wait. And Ann, you want to go up next after that? And then we will have sort of used up the people who were assigned to sing, and we'll just kind of have to take it as we go.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You know, dear, how much I love you. Don't take my sunshine away. The mist on the right and turn at one time. Find the corner, Alabama, let's come back and promenade. You know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Promenade and travel halfway. Walk right in, square to the fore. Go all the way and then do the right left to my friend. You veer left and come on, circulate. You Ferris wheel and then do double pass through. Link couple to a partner trade, swing your corner, promenade. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Head square, three in the middle, go forward.
Okay, that's off to a good start. Okay, Ann, you want to come on up? Now, there were two entirely different kind of deliveries that just went by, and it'll be interesting to see if they have anything in common with each other in terms of critique. I wonder.
circle up in a little dance hall, this up not a ballad. I dropped my drink when she came walking by. Left out in behind the corner, come back to see no. You do an elevator with a corner, and you should have asked her faster, but I waited too long. Well, you swung that lady around, and now you promenade along. Well, I didn't get his number, and I never asked his name. Big disaster, should have asked him faster. Well, now those heads will promenade, you travel halfway around that ring. You walk down the middle and around it through and down. Square through on the captain, 4 hands around the ring, you do it. Swing to the outside too, and then boys run. You bend your line and forward to a right or left through. Square through, 3 hands around when you find your lady. Swing her promenade. Well, I didn't get his number and I never asked his name. Big disaster, should have asked her faster. Well, now those old ladies promenade, they go walking around. You're gonna get back home and swing now with your man. Join your hands, circle to the left, go moving round the ring, you do. I left out a man that corner, and you should have asked him faster, but I waited too long. Well, you swing your lady around, and now you promenade along. Well, I didn't get his number, and I never asked his name. Big disaster, should have asked him faster.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. Thank you. I appreciate the 3 that have been here so far. I'm going to go ahead and go through with them. What do we got here? I just drop them? Okay. Actually, it turns out that John, in my estimation, John and Ann have things that are very similar to each other. Yeah, that's right. They both really are at their very best the lower they go in the range. They feel real comfortable low, and represents a common thread that runs through female callers, and that is that they are low-voiced women. And as I've heard it described, and I've watched a few times, high-voiced women have a harder time being understood and calling. So both of them really favor the bottom side of their voice. That means that when they move up into the middle part of their voice, it's the area of lesser security. Would you say that's a fair assessment? John shaking his head and says yes. It's not unattractive at all. It's just not quite as strong as the stuff that's at the bottom. Would you all agree with that too? And there are some things that we can do with both of you, and I'll get you up here in just a second to fuss around with that. The other part of it is that as lovely as the voices are in both cases, if they wanted to, they could get more beauty in their voice, more resonance in their voice, just by doing a couple of things. And so why don't you two come on up, and I'll tinker with you, and then we'll come back to Stephen, who has different issues to represent. Now, the first thing that they do is that they love, it's early in the morning, so it's even more common, love to rumble down in their chest. And both of you showed that tendency. John especially had that one spot where you dropped down low, and it was like, here I come, I'm ready to do it, and that was great. And then you had a moment where you dropped down in a low note, and that just was a real strong note. But when you got up into that middle section right up in there, it's early in the morning, and it feels just a little bit less comfortable. Is that a fair statement? How about for you, John? Is that about the way you'd assess that middle bridge? It's not hard. They do just fine. But if they could do it better, it'd be that much more fun. Here's a couple of drills I'm going to ask you to do. First of all, to kind of loosen up your throats. This is a pretty good drill that you can do when you're just going out to warm up. You're driving off to a dance, and you're trying to get high airflow. Then you do a lip buzz. It's this. Okay, and what will probably happen, I'm not going to tell you what's happening. Let's see if it does happen. Would you two try that? Just glide along. Yeah, here we start at the bottom. Now listen to John do this once. There's a real clear division in the sound, isn't there? There's a real rumbly sound, and then there's a lighter sound. Let's hear Ann. Now what?
Your photo broke.
Excuse me just a second while I wipe it. Actually, what Ann did is what I expected to have happen a lot. You notice that her buzzer kind of petered out on her there part of the way through. And that's a signal that her airstream is not constant. There's some laws of physics that have to do with the way your vocal cords work that also govern whether or not your lips will buzz. And that is, if you put your lips together and blow air through them, they're going to flap. They'll keep flapping until there's not enough breeze to trigger them. And what happened in Ann's case is that as she started to come up into a higher range, something she was doing in her throat cut down on the airstream, so there wasn't enough energy left, air energy, to make her lips vibrate. And that happens a whole bunch, not just to Ann, but to lots of singers. When they go higher in the range, they tighten up in their throat. That greater tightness doesn't allow for an easy flow of air, and the tone loses character. And that's kind of describes what it feels like. Now that you know the game, would you try that again?
I'll try not to spit in your mic.
And she was better that time. Still had a little moment where she couldn't quite keep it going. But did you also hear that in her voice there was a kind of a division from a low part to a high part? Do it again one more time.
I've lost my...
She never played trucks when she was a little girl. That's the problem.
Okay, let's try it again.
She really did it that time, didn't she? Well, just that little drill all by itself is going to make a difference in how they sing. Now, you may want to get your records back out again, because we're going to go back over those two spots that make you go up into the middle section. Now, that's just one thing. The airstream has to be constant. In John's case, it was really obvious that he was down in a low part of his voice, and then he went to the high part of his voice. Unfortunately, when John goes to that high part, he has the tendency to want to kind of tighten it down, and does too. John less so, because he got more hot air. He can keep it going more. I got to tell you that I wouldn't be here now if it weren't for John. And I may not be here again if it got John. A long time ago, I didn't know who I was insulting, and so everybody thought that was pretty funny, and that's how I ended up getting on this circuit to begin with. He was a good sport. But what I'm going to ask, do you remember the tune in your head without it being on the record player? Okay, just sing a phrase of that sort of takes you up into that middle area. Yeah.
Let me be there in your morning, let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right.
Now do that same thing again, only without the words, just buzzing your lips. Now, you hear how easy he's doing that thing? It flips up there, and there's no strain in it at all. Part of the reason is that with that lip buzz going on, it tricks your vocal cords into a more relaxed position, and they just go ahead and make that adjustment naturally. When a man is still trying to hold on to a certain virile sound in his voice, tries to go up in that upper range and hold on to the arrangement in his vocal tract, in his vocal cords, that let him sing in the low range, then there's a strain that starts to pick up. Now, I'm going to get John to do that one more time, and immediately follow it back up with the words. And you felt when you went up in that upper range with your lips buzzing, it kind of jumped up into your head a whole bunch, more so than what you're accustomed to doing, wouldn't you say? Okay, so do a lip buzz again, and then come back and sing it with words.
And you can feel it vibrating more up into the sinus cavities with that. It seems to be more relaxed, I think.
And as a result, let me come back on mic. As a result of that relaxation that he feels, he's going to get a much, much more resonant sound, and you'll hear it and say, whoo, boy, that sounds more masculine and powerful than if he's trying to hold on to his low voice. It's no different than getting ready to go out on the freeway and accelerating to freeway speed in second gear. It's uncomfortable. You can feel the transmission start to buck and jolt a little bit. And that's kind of what he's stuck in doing right now. But lip buzz it and then sing it.
Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right.
How's it going? Now, it wasn't bad before. It was nice before. This is a little more friendly, wouldn't you say? A little bit more accessible. Does it sound too soft? Well, yeah, it did feel that way. Now, but now, keep that same light, heady thing, but kind of lean into it. Give it a little more volume. Don't push it. Just lean into what you've already got there.
Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right. Make it right.
Yeah, now you could hear that tone that he was creating. He could lean on that and get a little more volume out of it. But as he did so, there was a kind of a clear quality that's normally characteristic of his voice when it's down low. And that clear, singers call it a ringing quality, began to disappear when he went up high. And it disappeared because of the tightness that was occurring in his throat from not allowing that shift to occur. As soon as he allowed that shift to occur, the voice lined itself back up and that ringing quality came in. Now, wouldn't you agree that that delivery that he just gave, even though it was more heady in its quality, was actually more masculine in its delivery? It was more strong. So that's a social characteristic that men have to get over, which is that you can't sing up in the high part of your voice without losing some sort of your masculine quality. It's a social problem more than it is anything else. Why don't you go ahead and have a seat for here a second, John? There's another thing I want to deal with, but you relax a second. We'll work here with Ann. Same thing, huh? Can you to pick a spot in your song that goes up in the middle and first buzz on it and then sing it?
I'll buzz it first. Didn't get her number, didn't get her name. Big disaster, should have asked her faster.
Keep going.
Hmm?
Yeah. Now, hang on. Yeah, you can hear it. I come back on microphone. You can hear that when she goes up to that note, instead of letting it buzz, she's trying to drive on it. Just, let's see. Lip buzz may not be the best thing in the world for you. Can you do a lip trill? I mean, a tongue trill? Okay, that'll work just as easily, and it's maybe a little less pressure on your throat. When you go, let's see, I don't know the tune, so sing it again.
Should have asked her faster.
Like that, okay? Time out. You all heard that flip upwards, didn't you? Now, when a person's trying to stay down in that commanding side, that flip gives you a bodily sensation of weakness. It gives you a body sensation that you're taking the drive out of it. Well, that's exactly right. You're taking the drive out of it. And when you take the drive out of it, your vocal cords are free to vibrate nice and easy and natural. Do that one more time.
Should have asked her faster.
If you feel that same thing, do it as a trill again. When she kind of drove on a little bit, could you feel that? It sort of stayed tight in your throat?
Yeah.
One more time. Flip. Go again.
Should have asked her faster.
Keep on going.
But I waited too long. Big disaster. Should have asked her faster.
Go on.
In a little dance hall just outside of Dallas, I dropped my drink when he came walking by. Left out a man with a corner, come back do sando. Left out a man with a corner, but I weave that ring. Should have asked her faster, but I waited too long. Big disaster, should have asked her faster.
Now, you notice when you got up to faster, he kind of went away. Could I ask her faster? And the big trick for Ann and anybody else that's like Ann is that if you keep your airstream flowing, the vocal cords will remain free to vibrate. There are two different kinds of energies that you use when you're trying to sing. One of them is just aerodynamic energy. It's just the wind coming out of your lungs, passing through the vocal folds. And when you've got that wind flowing at a strong enough stream, it's going to create a degree of suction between your vocal cords that will help bring them to closure without them having to be pressed closed. If you don't have that airstream going, the only way you can make your vocal cords vibrate is to press on them. And when they press on them, you get a strain. It sticks you in a lower register. It has a tendency to make tightness in your throat. It is not an attractive quality. So the big issue is to keep some air going. You want to do a little fat, skinny stuff that I've done before? You know, she just got out of the shower this morning, and she's in a room like mine, which got mirrors everywhere, and she looks off to the side, and she goes, "Ooh, my tummy is sticking out." What muscles would you use to pull that tummy in? Yeah, do it. Okay, now that's not bad. I'm going to sort of put my hand down below your waist, now right across from hip to hip. Suck in and make yourself like you were when you were 20. Okay, now relax it, and flex it, and relax, and flex, and relax, and flex. I'm just going to get this thing going. So it's in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. She's going to keel over here in a second. These muscles are not used to this kind of work. You got it in, out, in, out. Now the next time you go in, blow out. And you notice anybody that's seen this drill done before knows that she does it backwards. That when she flexes her abdomen in, she's trying to inhale at the same time. And God didn't make us to do that too good. And it inhibits the ease with which you flow your air. And if you can just develop a system that will allow you to use your air more readily, you'll be a whole lot happier. Air is a lubrication. It keeps your vocal cords flexible and easy. And if you're short on it, then your cords are going to be tired as a result. One more time, do that drill.
Sure.
In.
No.
Don't relate it to breathing. Just flex your tummy.
Okay.
In and out, and in and out, and in. And the next time you go in, blow. She's doing it.
She's going to have a baby in a minute. Now, let's go back. And you're going to get that airstream going. No, you're going to just sing it. But make it move more air. Maybe a third more air than you thought you'd normally use. In a little dance hall just outside of Dallas, I dropped my drink when he came walking by. Left out a man with a corner, you don't see around your own. Left out a man with a corner and you weave. Should have asked her faster, but I waited too long. Big disaster, should have asked her faster.
Okay, now I don't know if you can tell what's happened is all of a sudden, just by asking her to increase the quantity of air that she's using to sing with, her voice has become warmer, friendlier, and more projected. And that's a really interesting principle. If you've got a voice that's a little bit like this, that doesn't have any intensity in it, you don't press on your voice to get it better. You increase the stream of air by a significant amount. Does that mean you're going to run out of breath more? Yeah, it might. But you just have to then learn how to cope with that. Build up some strategies for not running out of air. But I think I mentioned in one of my sessions yesterday that some recent research between trained singers and untrained singers showed that the trained singers on every note, whether it's a low, high, loud, soft, use 3 times as much air as the untrained singers. So part of what you're doing when you learn to become a trained singer is not to hoard your breath, but to learn how to use it so that it doesn't require so much pressure in your throat. I liked that a lot. Okay, would you have a seat for a second? Thank you. And Stephen, you come on up. Stephen presents a slightly different issue. You want to just take the microphone and sing a little tad of yours? Is it unplugged now? What was it? Was this spiking on us or something? Oh, all right. Do you need to... You just go ahead and sing it without the record? Okay. Now, the thing that Stephen is going to be... I'm going to be looking at Stephen is that he has a kind and a gentle... It's kind of a George Bush vision of square dance calling. A kinder, gentler nation. And as a result of that, it doesn't have as much command in it as he'd like to have. So I'm going to see if I can help Stephen get a little bit more focus in his voice. First off, just sing a section of it so that we're reminded.
See if I can remember it. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
That's a real friendly quality. It's nice and fun to listen to. And we're going to see if we can help him get that so that it's a little bit more energetic and a little bit more focused. In one respect, it's no different than the other two that were up here. First thing that is happening is that Stephen doesn't have quite enough air moving. There's a point at which there's a law of physics called the Bernoulli principle, and it says that when there's air molecules in motion, those molecules create suction, or low pressure. And if you get them moving at a good enough velocity, they're going to create enough suction so that your vocal cords will suck closed rather than being pressed closed. And he's just a little bit below that threshold, so there's what I'd call a little bit of air leakage coming out. It's kind of this kind of a sound, this kind of sound, and you heard the intensity come into my voice. And that intensity didn't come because I pressed on my voice. It just that I increased the airstream sufficiently until there was enough suction so that the cords would come all the way closed. So we're going to do a little drill with you. Go ahead and use your microphone so that everybody can hear. I want you to sigh. Can you kind of match up where I am? Good. Now, next thing I want you to do is to, each time you do it over the next 3 or 4 repetitions, add a little bit more air to it. So here you go. Here's your normal way. Now add stream of air to that. Increase. You hear the change already? Again. You hear it again? It's getting more so. That's even more so. So each subsequent addition of air seemed to yield more intensity in his tone, but it's not physically any harder, is it, Stephen? No, as a matter of fact, it probably feels easier. For example, when John and Ann were trying to change gears in their voices, those gears will change a whole lot easier with a good stream of air than with a stingy stream of air. So this concept of airstream is really important. Okay, now try it one more time. There's another issue I want to get at with you. So just do that and bring it up to that good airstream. Now start and sing, You Are My Sunshine. You are my
sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Already, with just that one little adjustment, his voice has got a greater degree of clarity to it than it had before. Also, it doesn't sound shy or timid. You were real nervous up here a few moments ago. Yeah, he was really nervous, and so he was about ready to keel over from lack of oxygen, not from having too much oxygen. It's not hard to do this, is it? It is something that you have to think about, however, isn't it? It doesn't come naturally at this point. Now, the next thing I'm going to do has to do with some resonance issues, and I want you to work with me on some vowels. Let me give you a little explanation of what's going on. We've got about 7.5 inches from the top of our larynx to the front of our mouths. A tube about an 1.25 inches or 1.125 inches in diameter that comes up out of our throat, up into our mouths and out. And somehow in that 7.5 inches, the sound that's produced in our vocal cords, which sounds something like this. That's the sound that your vocal cords make. Now somehow in that 7.5 inches of resonance tube, we change that duck calling quality of sound into a human quality. It's a most remarkable miracle as far as I'm concerned, just magical. But if you know what you're doing, you can play games with that track to create different kinds of sounds. For example, when Stephen was first starting, he had this kind of a quality, and it had no focus to it, had no intensity. Now, most men think that intensity comes from the low frequencies. It ain't necessarily so. It's quite different than that. It comes from high frequencies. High frequencies are what carry in the human voice. Now, where in the world does that high frequency come from in a low man's voice? Right at the point in your larynx where the vocal cords are, just above them, there's this little chamber. It's surrounded by cartilage, and it's a nice little kind of resonance box. It's called the laryngopharynx. And since it's really small, it sympathetically vibrates to high frequencies. So it picks up the high frequencies in a man's voice or a woman's voice, and it boosts them up. So when you hear John down at the bottom of his voice, and he's got a low note like that, but it feels real focused, and it feels like it's real penetrating, what you're really responding to is that John in that low range has managed to figure out how to capitalize on that sound and get it out of his body. And it travels, and it mixes with the low frequencies that you hear in his voice and puts a high frequency point on it, and it gives it a real commanding power. It isn't low pitches. It's just freedom in the larynx. Now, in Stephen's case, some of his speech patterns, some of the way that he makes sound, causes him to filter that quality out there. It's there, it's being produced, but as it starts to pass up through his throat, it gets filtered out so that his sound has a less focused, a more sandy or diffused quality to it. Now, let's tinker a little bit and see if we can help you find that frequency. First thing he did was to get more airstream, and that was a good winner. Now we're going to go after this. Would you say for me the word please?
Please.
On microphone.
Please.
Okay. Now notice what you did with your tongue when you did that. Say it again.
Please.
If your tongue does like my tongue does, it sort of draws back in your mouth a little bit. It spreads out between your molars. Is that true? Okay, now I'm going to ask you to say the word pizza.
Pizza.
Same. It's an E vowel. But since it's an adopted word from Italian, our tongues generally go into an Italian position. Say it again. Pizza.
Pizza.
Elongate it. Pizza.
Pizza.
Now, can you already hear that there's beginning to be a little bit more intensity in that E as compared to the word please? Say the word please again.
Please.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Can you guys distinguish that there's a little bit more bite in that E? And the reason that that's so is that when Americans say their E's, we have a tendency to draw our tongue back, and when we draw our tongue back, it starts to lap out over into that back of our throat, and it serves like a pillow. It takes those high frequencies and it just absorbs them and filters them out. But if he can get his tongue to roll forward in his mouth, as he's doing on the word pizza, then that cavity behind his tongue is free, and that sound that's being produced in his larynx is free to travel up and out. It just doesn't get blocked out. It's real simple. Say it again. Pizza.
Pizza.
Now, I'm going to just walk through a couple of extra vowels with him without taking the whole time to go through the whole sequence. There's a vowel training that you can do to get that sound in your voice.
The word pizza, where do you want your...
Wait just a minute. Let's get that on tape. Where do you want...
Hi, this is Rich from Hayward, California. Where do you want your tongue on the word pizza? Do you want it on the E or on of pizza?
You want it on the E of pizza. And the position that normally is appropriate for an E vowel is for the tongue not to draw backwards and spread out between your molars, but to roll forward in your mouth a little bit. The tip being behind your front teeth. And if you're going to feel anything on the sides, it's going to be up near your eye teeth or in the very front of your molars. So if I had a good mirror, or if I had a projection camera so you could see my mouth easier, you'd see that my tongue does this. And that doesn't help for the people on the tape, but it rolls upwards and forwards toward the front of your mouth. I'll do the two kind of slowly. Please. I'm going to walk around so you can see. Please. Pizza. You see my tongue move up a little more forward on that. I'm going to come back here and do that again. Please. You kind of see it? Please. Pizza. Do you see it kind of tuck itself on up more forward? Pizza. Please. And you can hear the muffled quality come on in it. Pizza. Please. Pizza. And it actually kind of buzzes on the front of your face. Okay, now I'm taking longer than I want to, but let me come on back to this thing here for a second. The vowel in our language that is the most muffled of all is the U vowel. When somebody sings, I love you, and it gets all hollow. So if we can get that one to tune up, we can tune up anything. So would you go again and say, pizza, on that pitch? Pizza. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to get him to do a weird thing. I'm going to get you to open your mouth a little bit more. Wide enough so you can stick a finger between your teeth, your front teeth. Like so. Watch me. Pizza. Pizza. Yeah, his mouth's hard. Did you hear it? There's more energy. No more effort on his part, but more sound getting out. Now take that E and do this. E-U, 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 and just go back and forth. E-U, 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 E. That sounds more like an O to me, doesn't it, to y'all? E-O. E-U, E-U, E-U. E-U, 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 E. Now you got your mouth, get your mouth back open. Pizza. E. That's the old E. Pizza. Pizza. There it is. Now hang on to that and stretch it out. Pizza. E-U, E-U, E-U. E-U. And you can hear, when he's doing it, you can hear the sounds, or you can almost feel it in your own bodies. The sound waffles back and forth inside of his mouth. E-U, E-U, E-U. As compared to E-U, 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 E-U. You hear how that just sort of, you can get an U, you can get an E, but both of them have that vibrant quality in them. Here you go. E-U, 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 E-U. Now hang on to the U, okay? E-U. E-U, E-U, E-U. Now you hear that his U is all hollowed out? E-U. If each one of you will take your tongues and run it across the roof of your mouth, you'll find that for about 2/3 of the distance on the top, there's a hard surface, a hard palate. And then you come to a division, and then there's a soft palate behind there, a soft, fleshy portion. And that fleshy portion can go up and down and helps us to make the difference between nasal consonants and unnasal consonants. What happens with most Americans is that we have a tendency to say all of our vowels deep in our mouth. It's normal and proper that the back of the tongue should arch up on a new vowel. That's how you get the language to make it. However, if the tongue is retracted too deep in the mouth, it's going to be up where the vibration point is on that soft, fleshy portion. And if that happens, you get a muted or a dull quality vowel. If you let your tongue slide a little more forward in your mouth so that that high arch coincides with the edge of your hard palate, you get this kind of a result. E-U, as compared to E-U. You hear the hollowness come into it as soon as the sound gets absorbed. And what I'm trying to help Stephen to do is to figure out how to keep that bright, high quality in his voice all the time instead of just some of the time. So here you go one more time. E-U. E-U. Again. Give me the pizza. E. P. Boy, you got the skinniest finger I ever did see. I don't think he'd get a fingernail between his front teeth, let alone a finger. Go on again. E. E-U. E. Now listen to me. E-U. Watch me. E-U. As compared to E-U. You try. E-U. That's somewhat better. Go again. E-U. Now go back and forth. E-U, E-U, E-U. Now stop, take a breath, do that again, but do it after 2 or 3 times. Stop on the U. E-U. E-U. Does that feel like a U? No, actually you go ahead and let your tongue do all the stuff, your lips do everything that they do to make a U. You just make them match. The feelings that you get inside your mouth on E. E. It kind of sits right up front here. E-U. You try to hold on to that instead of let it waffle back and forth in your mouth. That waffling comes because your tongue's moving back and forth in your mouth. And what you do is just learn to teach the tongue to stay put. I'm going to use my hands to describe this. My right hand here, my fingers, these represent your front teeth. My left hand represents the tongue's position in the mouth, like so. And as you do that, you can see the implications of where the base of the tongue is. It's all nice and relaxed and out of the throat. Now, when you go to a U vowel, the right position for the tongue is for it to arch upwards like so. However, most Americans don't just let it arch up like this. They arch it up and they draw it back at the same time, and it's the drawn back that's the problem. So what ends up happening is that your tongue serves like a piston, and the front of the tongue goes up on E, and the back of the tongue goes up on U. So it's E-U, 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 E-U. But the tongue doesn't have to go forward and back in your mouth. It just goes up and down like a piston. And if you can learn to do that, then the oo vowel doesn't get hollow. And if you can solve the oo vowel and the e vowel, you can match all of the other vowels to that. And you can have that ringing quality in your voice without any trouble. One last shot at it, shall we?
E-U.
E. Now go back and forth on it.
E-U, E-U, E-U.
Boy, he don't want to keep going. Let's crank this thing up so that it'll keep running. Go.
E-U, E-U,
Stop on the U.
U.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Can you get a finger in between your teeth?
Probably not.
I don't reckon. Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh.
Who's got more space between their teeth? Ooh.
Oh.
I think I win.
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh. And what you're doing there is, again, getting a little space so that the sound can vibrate and get out your mouth. And if you don't have that space, it gets absorbed and muffled off. I won't take more time now, Stephen, but you could see from what we were doing with Stephen that the first and foremost thing was that he had to get some wind going. As soon as he got that going, his voice took on a greater character. The second thing that happened was that when he started tinkering with his vowel, particularly the E vowel he could get, it had a little more bite to it. No more tension, just a little bit more carrying power because of the upper frequency. And Stephen would want to spend some time trying to figure out how to get that sound in all of his vowels. Why don't you have a seat, Stephen? Thank you very much. Why don't everybody... Now, this thing that I was just doing with Stephen was the thing that I was also going to say about John. That John, when he gets up in that higher range, had a tendency to want to close up his mouth and not let it vibrate. So, John, come on back up here. We'll do this drill a little bit more. And then I think if you are interested, we can all do this drill everybody together so you can get a sense of it in your own style. You can kind of remember what that felt like up in that higher range, you know, when you were lit buzzing it. Yeah. So just sing again. I won't tinker with any of the way that you say your words right now. Just kind of get that started.
Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right.
Okay, time out right there. Without me saying a whole bunch more, do the same thing you did. Just open up your mouth a little bit more.
Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right.
You note any difference with that? What were the consequences? I see some people nodding their heads, yes. Why don't we just kind of take a little straw poll here? Your head was nodding the most vigorous. I think she was just falling asleep.
On the last word, right, it came out as an ah instead of a
yeah, well, he's from Texas, and so that's how they say right. No, the truth of the matter
is... That's about the fourth time you've insulted me.
No, actually, I'm not a native-born Texan, I regret to say, but I lived there long enough so that I feel like it's my home, even though I don't live there anymore. So I can tease about it some, I hope. But I'll take a step off to the side just in case. There are different positions that your mouth's supposed to be in for each of the vowels. The most closed vowels are E and U, and they should have about the width of a finger between your front teeth. E, U, O, and A are mid-mouth vowels. That means that your jaw's got to drop a little bit more, about the width of a thumb. A, O, A, O, A, O. Now, John, just try that, and you'll feel like your mouth.
A, O, A, O, A, O, A, O, A, O.
Yeah, you can see that's more open than your normal position is. Ah should have about enough width for 2 fingers to go between your front teeth. Ah. So, you got skinny fingers. Ah. That's getting closer to it. Yeah, now, when that happens, the whole apparatus in your mouth's got more space in it. It's still not exaggerated to the point where you can't say what you're supposed to say. It's just got a little bit more resonance space in it. Most Americans don't use their jaws. They don't have flexibility in their jaw. So most Americans say this. Can you see at a distance what's going on with my tongue? It's just wagging back and forth. And every time it wags back, it has a tendency to filter out that high frequency that gives the character to the tone. However, when I go, you hear what's happening there? There's a character that remains constant. You could get that same thing. Just go, You can see him having to think pretty hard about that, because that's not a normal habit. Try it one more time. That's actually terrific. Now go back with that idea and sing through that bridge one more time.
Let me be there in your morning, let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right.
I like that a lot. Does that sound too phony or too singy? No, I like it a lot. It's nice and warm and resonant. It feels a little sort of loose inside, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're not biting on the words as much, just flowing out more readily. And you remember what it was. We're now a little bit later into the hour. It's not 9 o'clock in the morning. It's a little bit later, but not significantly later. But this doesn't sound like an early morning voice, does it? This sounds like a voice that's in good form. And it is in good form because he's taken better advantage of the natural resonances that are in his body. Hang on.
Yeah, one of the things I hear in John's voice, though, when he changes is he's probably a little bit like us all. We're doing something different. So there's a little unsurety there. So I think he needs to still feel like that he's got the control, that he has when he sings it the normal way he sings it. So let him try it one more time and just think, I've got control, You understand what I'm saying, John?
That newness, there's no doubt about it. You change some little thing in it, and all of a sudden it's weird, and you have to start all over. Now the question is, that was a fun little parlor trick that we played at 9 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles. Or is it, that's got some benefit to it. Now if I just kind of drill on that thing, maybe before long it'll become habitual, and I won't have to think about it so much. And the transition from that new sort of awkward tentativeness to taking command of it is really the responsibility of the person involved. Try it one more time. He wants you to sing the same thing again. It sounded to him like you were singing carefully, too tentatively, because it was so new. He wants to see if you can incorporate that into a more natural delivery.
Well, naturally, as opposed to your type of performance where you're used to people sitting looking at you like this, we are not. And it becomes a whole different ball game. All of you sitting out there like a buzzard waiting for a sick chicken to die. And say, okay, screw up so he can get on your case.
I'll go next, John.
And it's a whole lot of difference. When people are moving around, it's different than they're sitting there looking at you doing this thing.
No, actually, all three that have been up here so far have been really good sports. And it's to be understood that I've got him open up in his mouth a little bit more, and he's changed the way that his vibrations patterns work in his head. So that's a lot of new information to have to be kind of keeping track of. Just one more shot at it.
Let me be there in your morning, let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever is wrong and make it right, make it right.
All right, I think that's terrific. Thank you, John, very much.
If I may, if you will indulge me for just a moment, I think it bears repeating that how Arden Hopkin got involved with CALLERLAB, and that back in 1979, I had just been elected chairman of the board of CALLERLAB. Right after that, the president of our local Callers Association, Eddie Phillips, found out about Arden over at TCU and he took him some square dance records to critique. He didn't know anything about square dance and never heard of it. Or may have heard of it, but didn't know anything about it.
I did a little bit when I was in college, just one-night stand kind of things, and had a good time with it, and thought, I've been to a couple of one-night stands. I know how to square dance.
So Eddie took him some records, and then he came to our Callers Association, and he critiqued those records and told us what he heard in them and in the quality of the voice and what could be helped. And then he began to critique some of our local callers. And we took a refreshment break, and Eddie came and asked me if I would go up and call and let Arden critique me. And I said, no. And I really don't want to. And I said, let these other guys do that. I've been through these things before. Let them have a chance to get some professional help from Arden. So I turned it down, but then Eddie took one of my records and said, Arden, I'd like for you to critique this record, and put it on and played it. Well, everybody in there knew that it was one of my records. And when they got done, Arden's comment was, it sounds like somebody who's in love with their own voice. Well, everybody there just died laughing because he had really socked one to me. Well, when he finally looked up, I was sitting nearly at the back of the room and looking right at him and had not smiled. I gave him a glare like you wouldn't believe. And he looked at me and he said, "Would this be your record?" But as a result of that, I talked the executive committee into hiring him to come to Kansas City in 1980, and that was the first time that he appeared before CALLERLAB and did a tremendous job and has been ever since, and we appreciate your effort, Art.
So I owe it all to John's narcissism. Actually, that first time when I went to CALLERLAB, I didn't know what I was getting into. I'd just been to that North Texas Square Dance Callers Association one time, and they called me and said, "Would you come?" And I said, "Well, sure, what a lark." And they flew me into Kansas City, and I didn't think anything of it. I was preparing my lecture notes while I was riding on the plane, and I got in my room, and I got up next morning to go find out where these few folks were. And I walked in this ballroom, and it was just a sea of faces. It must have gone on for 3 ballrooms. You know, there's about 2,000 people, and I was supposed to stand up on the podium and teach a voice lesson to those bunch of folks. Boy, talk about winging it. That was a real scary deal. Okay, now, how are we doing on time? We've got about, what would you say, half hour? Hey, I beg your pardon. We've kind of dribbled along, but we've done good. I like the things that we've been doing. Is there somebody else like to come forward? Okay, we got one here. You were, say what? I'm sorry, what? Yeah, well, let's go. We got a bunch of folks here. Why don't you come on ahead, and then you come on ahead, and then we'll kind of go quick after those two. And I apologize if I've taken too much time here talking, but my desire is not just that you hear what the effects are in somebody else, but that you can figure out on your own bodies what it is that they're doing that makes the difference. Tell me your name, will you, please? Yes. Sal?
Seal Potter.
Seal Potter. Okay.
From Pierce, Arizona.
Okay. Can I have you?
Circle M. Well, I'll sing you the song after the lovin' is the song I just wrote yesterday. Left Alaman, turn partner right. Left Alaman, gonna weave that ring. You're all I wanted, you're all I dreamed of. Swing that girl promenade. After the lovin', I'm still in love with you. Head you square through, forehand you go. Find that corner lady, Joe Sato. Swing through tonight, those boys you run. Bend the line, go right and left through. Past the ocean, recycle her. Swing that girl promenade. After the loving, I'm still in love with you.
That's terrific.
It is different than with the dancers.
Yeah, pretty self-conscious feeling, isn't it? Yeah, I think I am. Oh, I'm in your place. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'll slip over on the other side.
Check 1, 2. Sid Acker from Dallas, Texas.
Okay, Sid.
Okay, John.
How could I tell that you were from Texas?
I don't know.
Circle of left. I'm back in the saddle again. Out where a friend is a friend. Where the lonely cattle feed on that lonesome gypsum reed. Alaman left, weave that ring, riding that range once more. Toting my old 44, where we sleep out every night, and the only law is right. Back in that saddle again, Grand Square, back in that saddle again. Out where a friend is a friend, where the lonely cattle feed on that lonely gypsum weed. Back in the saddle again, Alaman weed, riding that range once more. Toting my old 44, sleep out every night, and the only law is right. Back in that saddle again.
Okay, thanks, Sid, very much. Now, let's get you two on up here, since time's on the short side. Seal is actually a really good example. I'm glad that you were able to come up here today because she represents women who don't have that exaggeratedly low voice and still have to find a way to make your voice sound right and commanding in the middle, right? Sid, why don't you have a seat for just a second? We'll deal here first with Seal. Now, can you do that again, what you just did, without having the record on? Can you sing any section of that? I do believe. Yeah, I think it's on. It may be just getting weaker.
It shouldn't affect you be on a remote. Well, I'll sing you this song after the lovin'. It's a song I just wrote yesterday.
Time out and do that with that lip buzz. Because what Seal's kind of stuck with is a changing airstream. Every time she goes up, it cuts a little short. Let's see if that's true. Can you buzz that?
Probably can grrr, but I doubt I can. No, I can't.
Now, do you feel that shift that went? You didn't do that when you were singing it. You sort of drove through that. That's kind of, like I said, it's kind of like driving your car in first gear up about 45 miles an hour. It just doesn't feel so good. One more time.
With the buzz?
Yes.
Hard, isn't it? Well, I'll sing you this song after the lovin'.
She just changed that gear pretty easily that time. And the first time she was up, of course, she was real nervous. And now she's less nervous. And so as a result of that, she's having more success. But even so, that change in gear really helps a lot. Now, the next thing I want you to do is the same thing again, but do like Stephen did, and then just intentionally increase your airstream by 25 or 30%.
You want me to blast them out?
We'll see.
Well, which with? The brr?
No, with the song.
Well, I'll sing you this song after the lovin'. It's
Did you all hear how it, after the tur part disappeared a little bit? She cut her airstream off. She didn't know she was doing it. She's just a habit. Sing on through that thing.
Rode yesterday, left element, turn partner right, men star left, turn it one time, I say.
Did you hear what happened on the word say? It just dropped right off. You bet. So keep it going all the way to the end. Pick up wherever you want.
Turn through it home, left element, swing that girl, promenade. After the lovin', I'm still in love with you.
Women have the same issue that men do. They have down in their voice box a little pocket of space. They can pick up on high frequencies and project those high frequencies. Don't be deceived. High frequencies, even in women, are desirable things to have happen. What you don't want to have happen, however, often happens with women is that they get tight in their throat. That real high frequency disappears, but all of the low frequencies disappear. Now, I haven't taken enough time to really explain how that is so, but the space behind your tongue is really important for getting nice, rich, warm sounds. And it also, by having that space open, it permits the sound that's coming from lower, the high frequency, to penetrate out as well. So when you hear a woman, or a man, but especially a woman, because of the higher octave, sound kind of shrill and harsh, it's mostly because all of that's being filtered out in her voice. Now, as you increased your airstream, you got rid of some of that sort of high-quality edge by increasing that upper frequency and pulling it into a balance with the lower frequencies. She doesn't know that. She's shaking her head yes.
Well, I know.
She just sang. Okay, now here we go again. Keep your airstream going and just kind of stay. Don't forget to flip that thing up.
Well, I'll sing you this song after the lovin'. It's a song I just wrote yesterday. Left element, turn partner right, men star left, turn it one time, I'd say. Turn through it home, left element, swing that girl and promenade.
Now wait, you hear what happened? Swing that girl and promenade. Disappeared. She quit her airstream. When the airstream stops, you don't get that physical law happening. It was the same thing that happened with Stephen, and the quality of her voice diminishes. So you got to keep going, swing that girl and promenade, and it keeps going clear to the point where you're done with the word. Swing that girl.
Swing that girl and promenade. After the lovin', I'm still in love with you.
Sounds kind of like the Liza Minnelli of square dance calling, doesn't it? Thank you, Sid. Come on back up, Sid. Now, Sid has that ringing quality in his voice. Even though his voice is not deep like John's is, it still has that penetration power in it. And it's a very healthy voice all the way up through the range. It's a very natural thing. Now, you didn't know that you were doing that right, I guess. No. Just kind of making sounds.
I listen to John.
Yeah, well, I've often wondered about Willie Nelson. You know, Willie Nelson doesn't have the prettiest voice in the world, but boy, he sure does reach people somehow. And the reason that he does is that even though he's singing in a very, very twanging Western quality, he has that high-frequency penetration, and it's that high-frequency penetration that gives conviction to a person's voice. When somebody really wants to say something and be understood, they clean up their act. You hear what I'm doing with my voice right now? Whereas if I'm just sort of bulling it and trying to chatting, or if I'm telling something that's not quite true, you hear how I filtered that out of there. But when it becomes important that I got something I want to say to you, you hear what I do to my voice? You do it too. We all do it when it's important to be understood. We know how to do that. We just have to tie it in to our singing. Now, pick up your spot one more time, because there's only one thing, and it has to do with getting your mouth to be open so you get a little bit more of the warmth in your tone. Okay. But let's start from where you're at.
Okay. I'm back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend.
Okay. That character is there. Now I'm going to ask you to do what I did with John, and that is just open your mouth a little bit more. Okay.
I'm back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend, where the lone...
Did you hear? He was doing terrific until he got out where a friend is a friend. Just open up your mouth.
Out where a friend is a friend, where the lonely cattle feed on...
Whoops.
Where the lonely...
No, lone's fine.
The lonely cattle feed. Feed.
Another skinny-fingered fella.
Feed.
Drop. Yeah. Feed.
Feed.
Feed. Yeah, you got it. Say
feed.
Pizza.
Pizza. Feed.
There he goes. Lonely cattle.
Where the lonely cattle eat pizza.
That's what you call a real spaghetti western, isn't it?
Where the lonely cattle feed.
You hear it? You hear the energy that comes into that thing? It really makes a big difference in my ear. Try it one more time.
Where the lowly cattle feed on the lonesome ginseng weed, I'm back in the saddle again.
All right, y'all. You guys have to say, is that too much singing? Well, most of you say no. And maybe as you get out of this room and get talking elsewhere, you say, yeah, it's phony. And you're not supposed to do violence to your own art form. And your art form calls for a very natural delivery. In my estimation, that's not going too far. As a matter of fact, that's moving in a very good direction. It makes me want to sit up and go, whoa. Now, the problem will occur with Sid is he starts singing that way, and then the people are going to start to forget their choreography because they're going to be so enamored with his voice. That's really, that's a significant shift as far as I'm concerned, Sid. And all you had to do is just kind of open up your mouth a little bit. Come and give an explanation of what that felt like when you were doing it. And when you got onto that word feed, that was a big difference, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I feel it more up in the nasal passages, I guess is the way, more in the head than down
Less in your chest. That's right. That thing that Sid's describing, singers for the last 400 years have been describing as focus. It just comes up and it vibrates in the bones of the face when your throat is open. When your throat is constricted, the sounds never get up there. They get muffled out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
And are we supposed to be done now, or have we got a few more moments?
You don't have to quit. You can go on through the coffee break if you want to. If people want to stay. Yeah.
I'm willing. We got two folks. We can take this gentleman and this lady right here. And so come on up, and we'll just kind of do just like what we did with these last two. We'll just kind of take them a section at a time.
Fast or slow?
You call it.
I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a choice. I follow the pieces or Baby Likes to Rock It.
I follow the pieces.
I heard I follow the pieces first. Okay. I don't even know this one. I haven't done this and I'm not warmed up. And I've been drinking cold water. Side space, grand square. I fall to pieces each time I see you again. Element left and weave the rings. I fall to pieces. How can I be just your friend? Well, the head square through, take a four hands around. I don't know the figure on this. Go all the way. I'm sorry. I don't know the figure on this. Any figure. I learned how to square dance and call at the same time.
It doesn't make any difference to me whether she knows the figure or not, because I sure don't know it. But there are some things that Tracy, just kind of hang on. We'll come on back. And the other fella that was just here a second.
No yodeling. Right. Rod did a low yodel for me once. I'm Bill Horst, right here in Los Angeles, and I haven't been doing this too long, so I'm going to read the cue sheet if you guys don't mind, I hope. Whoa, let's try that again. That's a little too much for me.
Oh, ladies, chain that old ring. Chain 'em right back home. Do Paso, partner left and corner right. Your partner left, head ladies, center teacup shake. You know, if I could make it there, you know that I could make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York. Head you square through, go forward. Listen to Myron's floor in there. Go side o' the outside pair, you make a wave and swing through. Boys run right. You bend the line past the ocean tonight. I missed a call. Recycle, I missed right and left through. You swing and promenade to find I'm king of the hill, on top of the heap.
Okay, this actually is real interesting. Both folks here have some really good things going, and neither one of them can remember their choreography.
There's no square there.
That's certainly true. But they represent opposite extremes from where Stephen was at the beginning. Especially Teresa, when she first starts singing. I got that right. It's Teresa, right? Yeah, okay. When Teresa started to sing, she has a very high degree of focus in her voice. And there are ways that focus can happen. There are two different ways it can happen. Probably because she's not warmed up, but she's getting a greater emphasis of a certain kind. And that's a kind of throat control where you get a lot of pressure underneath and you use your vocal cords and tighten them down just slightly, and it creates a very high type of focus. There are some opera singers that use their focus that way, and they get a lot of mileage out of it. One of the things that happens, if I can speak sort of, they don't want to have to edit these tapes, do they? I got to find a way to say this in an appropriate way. It sounds a little bit on the edgy side, or so she's going to find a. I can't find the right word to say. Huh?
Just go off mic.
Well, she sounds a little. Excuse me for that. I can't find the right word. It's got an edge to it, like like the kind of sound that you don't want your wife to say when you're coming in at 2 in the morning. Of course, the guys in the square are going to obey when she commands. But if she can do it in a kind of a coaxing way, and she can do that very easily, all she has to do, when she was singing here just a moment ago, I mentioned 2 different kinds of energy early on when we first started. One of them is aerodynamic energy, airflow. The other one is muscle energy, called myoelastic energy. And she's got a high proportion of myoelastic energy and a proportionately lower degree of airflow energy. So if she can shift that balance just ever so slightly, she's going to end up with the same degree of strength in her voice, but less edge to it. Let's see if there's any truth in
I
that.
forgot to tell you I'm 5 months pregnant.
I couldn't tell. Okay, so without putting your record on, just pick up and sing, will you? Can you? Or do you need your record to find your intonation?
Yeah. I'm really nervous right now.
Okay.
If you were to ask me to sing in one of my opera pieces, no. I don't even know what key we're in, so it doesn't help me.
Just increase your airstream by about 30%.
I've got to be
That's the answer. You don't have to go any further. You all knew what it sounded like the first time she went up to pieces. It had an edge on it. You could hear how warm that was that time. Do it one more time without the record.
I fall to pieces each time I see you again.
And now all of a sudden, she's got a real friendly quality to her voice. It's commanding, but it doesn't have any kind of irritant in it. And it all has to do with airstream. Thank you, Teresa. Now, very quickly, let's come on over here. Bill started out, I think it was more out of nerves than anything else, sort of without airstream going. And then as you got going, you got more confidence and you really started to let it move. But you had the same dilemma that Teresa had, was you were sort of clamping down your throat and then leaning against it to get the drive out of it. Try to flip that over so that you're letting it ride on that airstream a little bit more. Can you do it? Just the same thing I just said to Teresa.
More airflow.
Just about 25 or 30% more. In other words, a significant higher degree of airflow than what you're used to.
4 ladies chain that old ring. You chain 'em back once again. Do paso, partner left and corner right. Turn partner left, head ladies center, teacup chain.
Hang on right there. Just a little pause to say already the higher airstream is making it more easy for us to listen to, but it's also making him feel terribly out of control, right? When people get nervous, the first thing that happens, we have a kind of a built-in tendency in our throat to clamp down right here in our throat, take a big breath and go, and clamp that thing closed. It's a means of self-preservation. It gives us a sense of control. It's a false sense of control. You just let go, and you'll find you have more control than if you try to keep it clamped down. Keep right on going.
If I could make
Hold it there.
it
You hear the pound that was on the first word? If I could make it there? His stream of air hadn't started, and it had an edge to it. And after about the second or third note, the stream got going, and the tone quality changed. I just want you to listen carefully.
Okay, go. So I
Right off the beginning.
If I could make it there.
Get that air going.
If I could make it there, you know that I can make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York.
Now, you could hear already that change is making a difference, but it's also making him go, whoa, whoa, I don't know quite exactly how I'm doing this. There's enough new in it.
I feel like I want to attack that first note on if, you know.
Yeah, and you can.
Like
now go back and attack it.
Okay. If.
Now do it with an airstream.
If.
Can you hear a difference in that?
I'm not sure I can.
I like the second one. The first one has a kind of, his voice reaches out and slugs me on the jaw with a kind of an abrasive quality.
It's different than tonguing a reed or a musical instrument?
No, not exactly. But in order for a tonguing to happen in a wind instrument, there has to be a stream of air started. And what's happening is that you're closing up your throat and then shocking it with a delivery of air so that in the initial attack there is an airstream. But if you get the airstream going and then respond to that airstream, you'll get a nice result.
I see. So do it again?
Yeah.
If I could make it there, you know that I can make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York.
Now notice where his voice is there. New York, and it's riding on up high. Whereas if the first time that he went it, he had that stuck down. New York, and he drives it upwards. This time he didn't. The airstream just sort of lubricated that shift. It's up to you, New York, New York. Let's say,
it's up to you, New York, New York.
And that'll sit there and be stable as long as he wishes it to be. Okay, and there's a response here. You want to say something here?
I was wondering if that pulsing that he was doing as he's singing those top notes, is that good or not good? The driving.
That delivery can be good, or it doesn't have to be good. As long as there's a stream of air going, you can get accents. Accents are interesting. They provide variety. But if you're doing it by compressing in your throat, it's not as good as if it's generated by a breath stream. And that may be the most significant thing that we've talked about today, is you just got to keep your air moving. The other part is that you need to stay loose in your throat. And if you do those two things, you're going to sing with longer. You're not going to wear out as fast. You'll have greater longevity, and people will enjoy hearing it more. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've sort of run along here a bit too long. I appreciate your attention and your attendance here today. I've had fun listening to these folks sing. I congratulate them for having the courage to do it.